Hi there. There's a big misconception that there's no money writing for nonprofits, but I'm going to tell you something totally different. When you pull back the curtain, you're going to find out that the opportunity is absolutely massive. There are certain organizations that are nonprofits that you may not even be aware of. And a lot of nonprofits are nicely funded by sponsors, advertisers, memberships, and more so that you can get paid very well to keep that going. It's a win-win for everybody. So watch this Inside AWAI session where we revealed all your opportunities in writing for nonprofits. I bet we'll surprise you with a few. Enjoy. Hey, welcome to another exciting issue of Inside AWII. Today, we're going to talk about something that a lot of people ask us about when they first become copywriters or are looking into what to specialize in. And there's a big myth that we're going to bust today. I am here with Lisa Christoffel. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Pam.
Hi. So Lisa is not only the managing editor of B2B Writing, B2B Writers International. Sorry, stumbled on that one. That was the old name.
That's the old name,
But
right?
Lisa has quite a background in writing for nonprofits, charities, trade associations, local, national, global, and also companies related to causes or companies that are supporting causes. So I wanted to interview her today because I think there's a giant myth about writing for nonprofits that we're going to just smash through. And then also we've got some exciting insights for you that you may never have known about nonprofits. So I'm going to dive on in. Here's what we're going to cover. And so I don't know. I have to like calm down because this is so exciting. I didn't realize that writers didn't know that there are three main pillars in the nonprofit world. There are many industries that cover the nonprofit landscape. They pay surprisingly well. Nonprofit doesn't mean we have no money for you, writer. And then how to identify organizations that do pay well. And then we'll cover 5 secrets to successful nonprofit writing and how to get started now. But the big myth I'm going to just bust right now with you, Lisa, there's actually big money in nonprofit writing.
Yes, the money is exactly the same in nonprofit as it is in for-profit. It just depends on what you want to do, who you want to write for, where you want to find those clients, but the money is out there. That they need your help a lot.
That's right. And we know because we have experience in it, and many of our members do too. And I do want to say that I reached out last week on some of our social communities and said, who's writing for nonprofit clients? And several people emailed me. It's all pro bono or free or volunteer. And I'm here to tell you that that is not necessarily the way to make a living. You can't buy groceries with pro bono, right? So we want to show you how to actually make money as a nonprofit writer. So let's start with the 3 pillars of the nonprofit world. And Lisa, I'm going to let you drive the car on this pretty much. Just tell me when
Okay.
to change slides
Okay.
because this is you know more about this than I do.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah. So we both love nonprofits, right? Because they're so incredible, right? They're just so incredible. So pillar one in nonprofits is what you guys are all probably the most familiar with. It's just charities, right? It could be the local soup kitchen, it could be the ASPCA, national, international, Save the Children, everything. Charities is what people think of when they think of nonprofits. And, as you can see by the 2 graphics here, they actually are both B2C and B2B. Because you guys, if anybody knows who I am, they probably know who I am because of B2B. And a lot of the nonprofit experience I've had is in B2B.
And I just want to stop
There's
you there for a second. If people are new and are like, what's B2B?
oh
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, it's marketing to business people, basically. It's so like if a in this case, ASPCA Pro is an arm of the animal welfare ASPCA Association that serves shelters, welfare centers, animal care facilities, those kinds of things that are looking to take in rescue animals, get them adopted, get them spayed and neutered, get them looked at by vets. So that's totally separate from the side of you and me who love to adopt dogs or cats or any kind of animal, which is the ASPCA main site. But there's a whole professional side. That's what we're
Right.
showing you here. That's quite common.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
charities. So that's pillar one.
Yep. And consumer, B2C is consumer, just in case you weren't
Oh,
aware.
sorry.
No, no, it's okay. I just have to keep in mind that some people might be joining us for the very first time and they're like, what is this all about? So,
Oh my
okay.
goodness. Well, if you are, welcome.
Yes.
Um, so when we think about charities, right, there's you can find all kinds of information online on, what charities people donate to, but this is just a snapshot of the top few charities that people donated to in 2022. So Feeding America, we all know during the pandemic, food insecurity became significantly higher in a lot of places. So it's kind of no surprise that Americans, and by the way, even though charities are worldwide, Americans kind of lead the charge in terms of donations and charities and things like that. So, we stepped up big here in America, and I'm sure the rest of the world stepped up big in their parts as well, to donate to that. United Way is near and dear to my heart because I'm from Rochester, New York, and George Eastman is one of the founders of the United Way. So they started in our area, and United Way, we'll talk about that a little bit later, supports a whole ton of your local charities by taking corporate donations. They have a huge corporate arm, United Way does, and then they take what they get from corporate and they send it out to the local charities that in each community where they are. So it's really cool. So anyway, you can read through these. St. Jude's, I'm sure you've seen the commercials for those. The Salvation Army right now, they're huge. The Red Kettle campaign, I'm sure you're familiar with that campaign. It's not just the buckets outside the malls. They're sending out flyers. How many? I've gotten, I think, 4 letters so far this season from the Salvation Army soliciting. So there's lots of copy involved in all of these
Yep. And
organizations.
if you can see the numbers, you guys, it's kind of a small graphic, but the top one, Feeding America, private donations account for 4.06 billion with a B dollars. So that's a ton of money. And now charities are known to give a major amount of the money that they raise to the end users or the people they serve. But how do they get that money? They constantly solicit donations from private individuals and private foundations and grants. And so that all takes copywriting. That's kind of where we're going here. All of that money is generated through messaging out to the
Right.
donors and others. So it's
Right.
huge. Okay. And
All right.
this is your list,
So
Lisa.
yeah, I mean, this is just a sample of the sort of industries where you can find charities, cancer research, especially pediatric cancer research, environmental, you'll see that sprinkled all through here, disaster relief. Team Rubicon is a really interesting charity because it's both disaster relief and a veteran support, because the people who participate in Team Rubicon are veterans who want to continue to give back. So they go out when there's been a flood or an earthquake or something, and they go help rebuild. So it's just really cool. There's so many amazing things. There's College Scholarship America, gives college scholarships based on need. The Carter Center, you've probably heard a lot about the Carter Center recently because of Rosalind Carter passing recently, but they do human rights, human suffering, global. They're a global organization who've eradicated diseases and things like that. All across here, medical research at the Alzheimer's. There's also things like the Smithsonian Institute, which preserves culture. So it's a lot of museums are nonprofits because they preserve culture and heritage. You've got Doctors Without Borders, which is medical services that go internationally. Rotary is something I'm very familiar with because my background is education. Rotary goes in and works with schools and things like that to provide services and supports, education enhancements. They do cultural exchanges. So there's all kinds of stuff here. You can this is just a sample of the charities and industries.
Yep. And I was just thinking of SCORE, which is the
Right.
retired
Score.org. Yep.
executives. They help small business people with free services to help them get off the ground. So it's kind of amazing how many different organizations there are.
Sandra's saying that she belongs to Rotary. So Rotary is a fantastic organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so pillar 2 is causes. Cause marketing is typically when a for-profit company gets together with a nonprofit cause or charity of some sort and creates some goodwill and momentum for that cause and collects donations and things like that. So it helps both the company and the nonprofit. So here you've got an example, and again, this is B2B, meaning business to business, and B2C, which is the consumer stuff, the stuff they market to us. So if you look at the bottom left here, there's the little guy with the red nose. I don't know, we can't really raise hands, but if you've ever participated in Walgreens Red Nose campaign, that started in the UK, I think. And it is an effort from Walgreens to help lift children out of poverty by selling these red noses. And then they did social media. The campaign was a social media campaign where, people were taking pictures. They would buy it and take pictures of themselves and then hashtag it and everything. So do you have a red nose? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, I was just thinking, I think I have a red nose. I'm sneaking into my drawer here. Oh, well, I can't find it right now, but I do have one.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So, I'm echoing.
No, you're okay on our end.
Okay. All right. So then IBM partners with an organization called Girls Who Code to try to increase the number of women in some of the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math professions. And so they provide like support and resources, education programs, and things like that. It helps IBM by giving them a sort of a boost to their brand. It helps the girls, the charity. And actually, from IBM's perspective, if you think about it, they're now getting a trained workforce that they want to bring into their company. So it's a win-win all around. And that's kind of what cause marketing is. It's trying to create a win for everyone. And here are some examples. So Starbucks has partnered with Arizona State University online, the online version. And so anybody, I believe the qualification is anyone who works for Starbucks and gets benefits, which means that you're like a full-time employee. You are able to get free tuition to Arizona State's online university. And we actually in the Northeast in Rochester have a grocery store called Wegmans, which is run by a local family. And they do the same thing. They offer college scholarships and tuition. So it's not exactly set up the same way, but they offer free tuition and college scholarships to teens who are working in their grocery stores. So a lot of that's a pretty common setup. If you look in the lower left, Bandcamp Fridays. So Bandcamp is where independent artists will upload their music, and on certain Fridays, they will donate the proceeds back to those artists because apparently they don't make a whole lot of money necessarily from the stuff that's uploaded. So it basically gives the profits that Bandcamp would have collected back to the artists.
Nice.
Ben and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry's is actually, where are they? Vermont, I think.
Yep.
They're a very politically active kind of ice cream manufacturer.
Yeah.
And one of the campaigns that they've run is Fix the Voting Rights Act campaign. And they've created a whole video series around it, and they advocate and help raise awareness on the gaps in the Voting Rights Act, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention political. So nonprofits are not just charities like
Right.
what you may think. Nonprofit is also supporting candidates and causes you want, that are being voted on at a certain time, elections for clean air or something like that. Those are also nonprofits, and churches and synagogues and local religious organizations, or national religious or global. There's really a wide range. If you are passionate about a certain thing, like we get a lot of questions about the Christian market. Is there any way to make a living as a writer in the Christian market? This is one area where the answer is a big fat yes. Not only are there companies that are in that world, and retreats and things like that, but there are also efforts to fundraise and all kinds of other things too. So it's any passion you have, the answer is yes.
Oh yeah, no question.
Shall we move on?
No question. Yeah,
Okay.
no question. So
All right,
like
now
the
go ahead.
Squarespace one, I just wanted to highlight, right? So they wanted to support LGBTQIA plus. It gets longer all the time. So there's like a hashtag campaign, Act with Pride, that they support and have you doing social media. And the one in the middle is really, I think, kind of cool. This is an aquarium I'm trying to remember the city, Monterey, in Monterey Bay,
California.
that during the pandemic couldn't obviously let people walk through their museum and everything. So they started doing cause marketing, raising awareness of ocean issues and things like that, and doing all sorts of YouTube and promotional things to raise money for both the aquarium, which is a nonprofit, and just ocean research in general, ocean cleanup and stuff like that. So that's kind of a cool example.
Yeah, it's there's so many you guys may not have realized. All right, pillar 3. Can I talk about pillar 3?
You may take it away.
All right, this is one of my favorites because it's so under the radar, but it's so big as an opportunity. And the category is trade and professional associations. So before I joined AWAI, I was working in the veterinary industry. I started out working for a big company that makes diagnostic equipment, a for-profit company. But then I ended up at the North American Veterinary Community, the NAVC. It's a nonprofit, but it serves veterinary professionals and solutions for them and training and the required continuing ed credits they have to get every year. And it's huge. They have a conference every year that is attended by I don't know, 30,000 people. And the trade show they have there, the exhibit hall has about 850 exhibitors, and they spend the whole year marketing that event. And then when it's over, they start again. And then they have other things they offer their audience for training and credits. It just is endless. There's a website, there's a journal, magazines. I actually write for, let's see now. I've written their show guide. I've written their summer camp series. I've written for the journal called Today's Veterinary Business. That's their journal. This is an area that we have not really focused on here at AWAI, but we are now because it's massive. It's basically for professionals or people who are in a community where there's lobbying, there's growth, there's different guidelines that happen. Like in this association, and the veterinary one, they put out guidelines every year on the human animal bond and other things like that. And they support other organizations that are doing that. You go to their trade shows, they've got hundreds of nonprofits as well exhibiting there to raise awareness for different animal related causes. It is huge, you guys. This whole world, I want to show you how huge. Well, first, this example here, Restaurant Workers Community Foundation. It's an advocacy, easy for me to say, community focused on the needs of the members, like wage fairness, career ladders, gender equality, racial justice and support, mental health and substance abuse. And that's just for restaurant workers, very specifically. We also have the American Gem Trade Association. Who knew that was a thing? Over here, we have the ASTM International, which I think is about safety.
It's a standards. Yeah, it's a standards organization. Yep.
Safety standards, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, you guys. Every single industry, I challenge you to stump me and say, what about this industry? There's no association for that. Yes, there is. I bet I can find it. Every industry. I mean, here are just some examples. The advertising and marketing world has several trade associations. Agriculture, I'm going to show you in a minute, a whole big old list. Clothing, apparel, footwear, construction, energy. I'm talking really fast here, but you can just scan the list for yourself. This is just an example. There are many, like you name any industry and there's at least one trade association. So here's a list of the medical world, different trade associations in the medical world. They have, I don't know, maybe 30 different specific trade associations in the medical world, including the American Pet Products Association. I know the CEO of that one, the Federation of American Hospitals. If you go to,
and this is just a sample. This isn't all of them. This is a sample.
2 categories out of countless categories. If you want to jump to agriculture, who knew there was an American Christmas Tree Association, American Corn Growers Association? I mean, it's really kind of fun. Because if you have something you love in your life that you enjoy, it doesn't even have to be something you ever did in your career. It can just be a personal interest or your lifestyle. There's an industry for that, and there's an association for that. So there is a Wikipedia page called Notable Trade Associations in the U.S. If you go there, you'll find a gold mine of all kinds of different associations. And what's really cool about them is they need everything. They have websites, journals, news, email, video, newsletters, trade show stuff, conferences, breaking news, all kinds of things going on. It's just endless, you guys. And they are well funded usually by sponsors and advertisers who want to reach the members of the association. So in my case, the Veterinary Association has a lot of money coming in from sponsors like IAMS and Purina and the ones we all know, big names. They pump millions every year into that association. So I actually have done some writing for them as a freelancer, and it's pretty darn great. Some of the biggest freelance income I've ever made is from that association. So how exciting is that? Okay, back to you, Lisa.
All right. So with that set up, we kind of already teased this out, but which industries have nonprofits? Pretty much every single one. There are very few that don't. There are more than 10 million nonprofit, non-governmental associations around the world. 1.5 million of those, 15%, are in the US. About 10% of the US workforce works for a nonprofit in one way, shape, or form. And typically for nonprofits, about 70% of the staff are paid workers and the rest are volunteers. Now you will find a huge range on that. That is a typical, that is not, that doesn't apply to every single one. But this is the number that you guys should be excited about. And then the next chart's even more exciting. The total U.S. nonprofit annual revenue, that was in, I think, 2016, 2.62 trillion. So if we go to the next, look at the slope on those lines, guys. Look at the slope on those lines, right?
Yeah.
This is a growing area.
Opportunity. And yes. So what do they need from you guys? everything, basically.
Everything.
Everything, anything that you would write for a for-profit company, nonprofits need as well, because they need to reach people, they need to solicit donations, they need to communicate with their donors, they need to communicate with their members, they need to serve, communicate to all the end users who they serve, they need to communicate to businesses or sponsors and advertisers and exhibitors and blah blah blah. They do the
And
same thing. Yeah.
and there's lots of new, so they talk to new donors and new areas, and they have tons. In fact, probably the bigger part is retention, right? They talk to the people who've already given them money because those are the most likely people to give them more money. So the retention copy, if any of you have taken AWAI's retention program or anything, the retention copy available in nonprofits is through the roof.
Yep. I'm just answering a question here. Okay. So now that we know they need all this stuff, the big question is, drum roll, do they really pay well?
Mhm.
Uh-huh. I can attest to this. Well, we'll get to that in a second, but go ahead, Lisa. Talk about.
Yeah. So if you think about what a nonprofit's mission is, right? Their mission is to deliver services, whatever those services are, that they have been set up to deliver. And the only way they can do that is by securing enough funding to enable them to deliver that service. 50% of nonprofits fail within the first year. 30% go under within 10 years. Usually the reason they can't secure the funding. They rely on effective marketing to stay in business. Typical sources, grant applications, direct solicitation. So most of the bigger ones will have like a development group where they're reaching out to companies, or big sources like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that kind of thing. But the rest of it, all the rest of it is marketing. And that's where they need copywriters. And actually they need copywriters for grant applications too. And they need to pay competitively to generate effective marketing, donations, sponsors, grants, etc. I've had that experience. Pam's had that direct experience. I talked to somebody who works in one of the very largest nonprofit direct mail fundraising groups, and it was confirmed. Like, the copywriters are paid competitive wages because they have to, right? If they want effective copy, they've got to pay for it.
Yep. And someone was just asking, is it the same kind of pay as for-profit work? And the answer is yes,
Yes.
because you're making a difference to these nonprofits and bringing in more money. So it's no different than writing emails for a dog food company than it is writing for the ASPCA. Both entities need income to keep serving their public. So
Right.
it is the same. All right, now let's see. Okay, so we have a few examples. I wish we had 100 examples to share with you today, but they're out there, people. I'm telling you. So Lisa, tell them about your experience being paid as a writer for a nonprofit.
Yeah, so I have written for a couple of nonprofits over my career. I'm an education and training copywriter. So I do B2B mostly in the education and training space. So yes, I have done some pro bono work in the education space. I'm not going to lie to you, right? Because like PTA, they don't pay. But I'm happy to help them because I love their mission. But I can do that because I have clients that do pay me, and then it allows me to do some of that other stuff. So one of my clients does education enhancement. Essentially, it's a B2B company that has this really cool training program for teens, targeted at teens, and they sell it as a franchise program to other nonprofits. And so what I did for them was they were 3-year contracts that they worked on. So my job was to write retention, tons of retention copy, video stuff, emails. I designed call scripts for the people to talk to their clients and things like that. And then I also did copy to bring new business into them. And I made about $10,000 a year just doing projects. That it wasn't like a retainer or anything like that. It was just individual projects here and there, about $10,000 a year. And I've written for another company that supports agencies and services, and that's about $10,000 a year as well.
Yeah,
So,
and
I mean, really good money and lots of fun.
so I worked for 4 years for the NAVC full-time on staff doing communications. But when I left and joined AWAI, I still do freelance on the side because I love it and I want to stay in the trenches so I can say yes when a client calls you. And I didn't want to say when I did that years ago. So I'm still doing freelance. And one of my clients is still NAVC. For a few years, they hired me to do a big trade show daily, like on the scenes magazine, 24 pages, 4 days in a row. I pre-wrote some of the stuff, but then I would interview people on site. 10 grand for that project each year. And I think I did the math one day about how many hours it took, and it ended up being like $400 an hour because some of it was very simple, just quick articles, easy peasy, get an interview with someone and transcribe it into a neat article. Not so much time involved in that, but I know how to write. So that was the purpose. And this is an example right here, this screenshot of one of the magazines I wrote. Yeah, so I'm sorry, that's good money, right?
It is. And mine probably wasn't 400 an hour, but if I added it up, it was probably between 200 and 300 an hour that I made from them. So, not it's absolutely competitive pay. In fact, I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and she had just done a 4 email series and been paid $5,000. Again, this was in the nonprofit education space.
All right.
So totally, absolutely good money.
Yes.
Believe it.
And you also know a member who recently got paid
That's
5 grand.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So, what are the sources of income for nonprofits? We've touched on that, but this is why they have money. And a lot of them have grants. So if you go to a local nonprofit and you're interested in writing for them, ask about the grants that they get. Many of them get grants, and that helps them afford to do marketing to individuals and corporations and that type of thing. And then fundraisers are ongoing year round. I have donated to Habitat for Humanity, for example, and they constantly come to me again. Would you like to donate to this thing we're doing? Yeah, and animals, of course, I donate to animal causes. Corporate sponsorship is a biggie, like I said, for trade associations. If you ever see a website for a corporate, a trade conference or a trade exhibit hall or anything like that, they have our major sponsors, and those are the big names who gave a lot of money to the organization. And then they might have our second tier sponsors. All that money comes from them so they can be seen on that website and maybe on the bags that they hand out at the trade event and things like that. Foundations, I'm not as familiar with foundations. Maybe Lisa, you can talk about that.
Yeah, so like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, right? They give away millions and millions of dollars every year to causes and research and all sorts of things that they're interested in. There's also, and I can't remember the name of her foundation, but Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, she got half his money and she set up a foundation and she's given away like I don't even know, tens of millions of dollars through her foundation to charities and causes and things like that she believes in. So foundations often are maybe family money, right? Where people, the family has a specific kind of something that means something to them, and then they give away money in that area. Lots of foundations give college scholarships for different reasons to different types of for different causes, or racial or equity or things like that. So foundations are really just rich people who set up organization, a nonprofit whose specific job is to give away money for the causes that they believe in.
Yep. Beautiful. Um, I see a question here that I want to just answer really quickly. It's about getting clients. There are so many ways to get clients, you guys. And on our Inside AWAI website, a part of our website, we have like all kinds of sessions like this on just getting your foot in the door with clients. One of them is 26 ways to get in your foot in the door with clients. So I don't want to go deep into that here. I just wanted to not ignore you, Barbara. But the same things that you would do to get a client with a for-profit company, you would do the same thing here. We'll show you a couple things, but boy, we've got hours of ideas on Inside AWAI on getting clients. So, okay. Now let's look at the reasons that nonprofits specifically need writers who know what they're doing, who can quickly learn how to help them. Lisa, it'd be great if you can go over this one too.
Yeah. So, I mean, look at their biggest top line, right? Is rising operating expenses. So you think about what we talked about a few slides ago with respect to what the sources of income are for a nonprofit. They are generally donations, grants. Money is coming in based on requests that have gone out from the organization. So if their expenses are going up, they actually need to bring in even more donations, even more money. They have a limited staff capacity. So one of the things that happens is as a nonprofit, funding sources are not covering their expenses. They may lay people off, like the staff, and so more staff are doing more with less, which means even more that they need help when they're doing those campaigns to try to raise money. And then if you look at the bottom one, cultivating donors, I mean that's the whole ball game for a nonprofit. Is they need to have you help them both find new donors and, as I said, retain donors. And that's a huge one for nonprofits, is getting you to give again, right? Once you've already given, getting you to give again is the biggest piece of the puzzle for them.
Okay. Now, thinking about writing for nonprofits, there's a big general wonderful direction that we can give you on how to talk to people that nonprofits need to reach, and it's really compassion. It's someone is moved by a mission, whether it's Doctors Without Borders or animal welfare or climate, racial equality. If they're moved by something and they want to support the people who are on the front making changes and helping serve that public, that's a feel-good thing. Like, I'm helping save animal lives. That's a great thing for me. I really, that's a passion for me. Now, Lisa,
Mhm.
I don't know if you want to talk more about this, but it's tugs at the heart.
It tugs at the heart. And you think about it, it's also, I think a big part of it is community, right? So my husband and I started bird watching a couple years ago, and we really, really loved it. And we've become compassionate. Like, we have so much empathy for the birds and everything that we're donating to the Audubon Society, and we're participating on some we never did that before, but now we feel like we're part of a community, and we're really, really enjoying the birds, right? Which is kind of a strange thing, but that is what drives people to donate, is feeling like they're part of something. I mean, if you're part of a church, you probably donate or tithe to the church. And part of that is because that's your community. That's where you feel safe and you belong and you've got personal experiences too. That's what charities are trying to create with donors as well.
Yeah. Okay. And so the other group is that the corporations who are supporting causes and have embraced a cause to put forth and bring their customers. It's funny. I read a statistic recently that said People really love doing business with good companies, companies that are doing good. And that's where the cause part comes in. Like if everybody thinks about the oil spills and animals affected by oil spills, and Dawn dishwashing liquid kind of
Yep.
adopted the cleanup for animals and wildlife, that's their thing. So when a lot of people who care about wildlife would buy Dawn, and so it's everybody wins when that happens. And corporations have to promote their work to support causes through all kinds of marketing. So yeah, Lisa, if you want to chime in on these bullets here.
Yeah. So, I mean, corporations are made of people. So, in that respect, there is still compassion and empathy for the cause, right? Because the people in the organization make the decisions about where they're going to put their money and what kinds of causes they're going to engage with. As Pam just talked about brand reputation, right? Dawn dishwashing liquid. Dawn has a reputation of being so gentle that you can put it on a little duck covered in oil from an oil spill, right? Everybody knows that image. Brand recognition. How many people would know about Tom's shoes if they didn't do a buy one, donate one kind of cause? That's what they're all about. There's community and social responsibility. So when I worked at Kodak for a bazillion years, right? We had and we were an enormous Fortune 500 company. We partnered with the United Way in the local community, and we had a United Way Day once a year, every year, where all the employees would go. Kodak just let us go. We would go out and we would, clean up nursing home landscaping and paint and fix halfway houses and do all sorts of stuff in the community to let them see that Kodak cared about their community. And then we also had United Way donations coming straight out of our paycheck. So Kodak and United Way were partnered so that we donated straight to the United Way and never saw the money at all in our paychecks. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I say like community and social responsibility. This is the community they're in, and they want to support it. Tax deductions. Employee satisfaction. If you think about some of the stuff that Disney did on their positions with respect to LGBTQ, it was because their employees said, we want your support. We want to know that you're supporting us. And then there's a competitive advantage. Sometimes when a corporation is partnering with a nonprofit, it's because they have some kind of a resource available that the nonprofit can use, and it gives them a competitive advantage. So occasionally that happens as well. But corporations, they're not people, but they employ people. And so a lot of the reasons that they have for participating in causes and things like that are positive.
Terrific. Okay, so little shifting gears here. We want to give away some tips on writing for nonprofits. They're not all that different than writing for-profit companies, but there are some nuances, some secrets that we want to share with you. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to share 5 secrets to success in nonprofit writing. And the first one is, drumroll, evoke the right emotions. So Lisa, walk us through that.
Yeah. So, I mean, as we've talked about, right, the nonprofits cover like every industry, every kind of mission, every kind of target audience, but the emotions are pretty similar, right? You're asking somebody to give you money and not get anything necessarily in return for that. So, empathy for the cause is really the key emotion for long-term success. That's what's going to get them coming back again and again to donate. You can use guilt. It can work in the short term, but it's really not a great long-term focus. So empathy is really like the best emotion. When you're writing for nonprofits, really think about that. How can you tug on the heartstrings of the person you're asking to donate that money?
Yeah, and we have a little model here for you guys that Lisa brought
Yeah.
to the slide deck. So I'll walk through that, please.
Yeah. So if you've ever read Robert Cialdini's book called Influence, it talks about the principles around why people sort of take action. So one of the principles that works really well in nonprofits is the principle of reciprocity. So this is, give donors something so they feel obligated to return the favor. Now, that actually is a little bit of the guilt thing. So a lot of charities use it. Um, and sometimes you may find yourself saying, I don't care if I get any more socks or Christmas cards. I'm not donating any more money to you, right? So that can backfire on you, but if there is something behind that, you get that. Now, actually, I just have a little so this organization called Boys Town sent a calendar, a pad of paper, 2 pairs of socks, and 2 pens
Wow.
to get a donation, right? Now all of the stuff that they sent was probably donated to them as part of it, but this is the principle of reciprocity, which basically says they're getting something, they should give you something, right? Even if they're just going to give you a little bit, you sent them something that is of value or that they can use, so you're going to give them a little something back. There's a principle of liking, right? And that is showing donors how you're like them, that you've got similar values, similar priorities, and things like that. If you get on Team Rubicon's email list or get on their communication list, you will find that they talk to you like you and they are part of the group that's responsible for helping keep our communities safe by rebuilding when they experience tragedies and things like that. So that principle of liking is important. There's a principle of scarcity. So essentially, if you're somebody who likes to feel like you are super compassionate and super empathetic and you're really responsible, then companies will create things like founding sponsors or a donor wall where you'll get your name on a donor wall or something like that. But there's a limited number of spaces, so you have to give so much money in order to make it onto the donor wall, or you have to do it within a certain amount of time in order to make it on. So that scarcity principle is helpful as well. The principle of authority. Who is it? Sarah McLachlan, who sings for, is it the ASPCA or
I think
something?
so, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So that the beloved personalities, people that you identify with, I think anything Taylor Swift says is a good thing to do, tens of millions of people will go do it, right? So that principle of authority is something that that you can leverage really well in asking for donations. And then social proof. So when you showcase that other people in their community have done something similar, then it's sort of like a competition. So I know in Toys for Tots, what they will do locally is on the local news, they'll have like one of those big thermometer things or something, and they'll show how close to the goal of donations they've come in the Toys for Tots, which I think is run by the Marine Corps or something. I can't
Yeah.
remember who
Yep.
runs that. But they will show all your neighbors have donated this much. If you haven't donated, should you be donating to Toys for Tots? Because you want to be part of that community. You want social proof that other people around you have done something similar. And then one of the other, I think the biggest thing when you're tugging on that empathy heartstring is the principle of commitment and consistency. So you're basically reaching out to people to say, if you care, you'll donate, right? And if somebody thinks of themselves as, I'm a person who cares, I'm a person who follows through on my commitments and cares for others around me who cannot care for themselves, then they're going to donate.
All right. I'm sorry, I'm answering questions over here at the same
No worries.
time. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, secret two is their motivations, people's motivations. Um,
Right. Right. So you don't have to motivate them with your
right.
copy. What you have to do is inspire them by understanding what motivates them. Altruism is often a motivation, a sense of purpose, right? Um, if your sense of purpose tells you that you need to be an environmental supporter and you get communications from the Nature Conservancy and the Audubon Society and, the Parks Foundation, any of that kind of stuff, you're going to donate to those organizations because they match with your sense of purpose and affinity for the cause. Um, and tax benefits, right? That could be sometimes people's motivation. It's usually not the primary motivation. It's usually an additional benefit they get from a donation they already would have wanted to make. A desire to give back, gratitude. I think there was one donation I responded to where people were going into a situation that I myself would never want to go into, but they were rescuing animals. And I was so grateful that they were doing it that I was happy to give them a donation because I supported what they were doing, even though I felt like it wasn't something I could do. um, Social pressure, sense of community we talked about, and then personal experience. If you've lost a loved one to cancer, donating to cancer research is a huge thing, right? If you have rescued a pet who had been mistreated and you see how that pet blossoms in your care and really recovers and bounces back, then you've got some personal experience in understanding why that nonprofit exists.
Terrific. Secret number three, storytelling. Huge.
Storytelling, it's
Yep.
huge. And talking about the struggles and challenges is necessary, right? They need to know that your dollar is necessary. But you've got to create a sense of connection and inspire hope that your donation can make a difference. Because if all you talk is all of this awful stuff, but you don't give them hope that things can change, that it has made a difference, that it will continue to make a difference, then they're not going to donate. People need to feel good in order to give you their money. Right. And this is a great uh little thing beside it that, Sri Krem has lived in the same community in rural Cambodia her entire life. She's relied on unsafe water from local ponds and unprotected sources for cooking, cleaning, and drinking. And they were often sick. All of that changed last month when our local partner, Clear Cambodia, arrived at her home to install a brand new biosand filter, right? So that is a story that's got all those struggles and challenges, but it's got the hope, the connection, that inspires people to actually say, oh my God, I want to do that, right? I want to donate one of those filters or donate money for one of those filters to be placed for somebody.
Yeah, when you're helping people see how their money can transform lives or the planet or animals or justice or things like that, that's the story you want to tell. Where actually, okay, prove it to me. Prove that my dollars are going to be used in a way that supports somebody. And that's what this is about, these kinds of stories.
Yeah.
All right, number five, create a sense of trust.
Right.
I was just going to quickly say that speaks to, are my dollars being used to serve the people that I'm hoping it does, or the animals, or is it just for administrative stuff, or the bigwigs who are running the charity and things like that. So you definitely want to show in your copy and your marketing, this social media post here is showing how the end user is benefiting, and that builds trust. So, Lisa, what more would you like?
No, you said it. That's exactly right. Success stories, things like Abby's story here, it tells how the organization is taking what you're giving them and delivering on their mission, right?
Yeah, I used to work for the American Cancer Society years ago as their in-house communications person. And I was responsible for communications in the Northern New England chapter, so Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And we were often asked by people, and the American Cancer Society would put out percentage numbers. This percentage of donations is going to local services. And these are the services that money is supporting. So they actually had to report, they were accountable to report that. So
Yeah.
if you're working with a nonprofit, you can, you might even end up writing their annual report for them where those kind of numbers are shared and disseminated through blog posts and other news releases. You guys, it's huge.
Yeah.
There's
It's
so much
huge.
opportunity. Okay,
It's huge.
number 5, create a sense of urgency. We're very familiar with this one, I think.
Yep. And Covenant House, if you guys don't, so I'm sure you've seen the ASPA commercials. That's, if you're in America, you've seen them. I don't know if they have a similar thing outside the US, but the pictures of the starving or freezing, little puppy sitting in the middle of a yard of mud and shivering,
Heartbreaking.
heartbreaking. Open up your wallet, right, to help them. And then Covenant House is a really great place because they take in homeless teens, and they help keep them safe, and provide a warm bed and things like that. So when you use, I mean, just saying help now isn't necessarily creating a sense of urgency in your copy, but paired with images and the story that goes with it, right? One more night on the street, and you don't know what's going to happen to that poor teenage girl, right? So you need to bring that money in now so we can get her in and safe, right? So that's kind of the urgency. You don't want fake urgency. It needs to be real.
Right. Okay. So our final section here is how to get started. So we've
Mhm.
had an amazing dialogue here in the Q&A. So I've had one eye on that and one eye on what Lisa's talking about. So I'm cross-eyed now. But how do I get clients in the nonprofits, clients who actually pay? It's like I said, it's the same as getting clients who pay well in the for-profit business world. You basically first get the skills, learn all you can, study the mail you get too, study the mail and email and other promotions, the social media posts that catch your eye. Wendy's saying, the commercials showing hardship really backfire for her. It's so horrifying to listen and watch that I quickly change a channel. Why do they do that? Well, it works. It doesn't work for
Yeah.
you, but it works for a lot of other people. So, I mean, it's worked. I can't tell you how many years the ASPCA has been taking that approach, and it's worked really well. People's heartstrings are pulled so hard by those images, they can't bear it, and they want to give and help solve that problem. So that's why that happens. And you will see stuff like that, like TV commercials, mail that you get. This is a letter from the Nature Conservancy here. And you can ignore them, but our advice is to not ignore them. Collect them when you get them. Collect the mail you get and don't toss it anymore. Take a good look and see if there's anything that tugs at you and what makes you want to donate. Like I have uh, uh, I have Wounded Warrior name labels, and I'm a big fan of supporting that organization. That's why I have these. So think about things that
And Pam, I've got holiday vouchers. So
oh, there you
Feeding America came out basically with a letter and basically said, hey, for every dollar you give us, we're
Yep.
going to donate 10 meals, right? So then you've got this little buck slip down here at the bottom, right? Which basically says, yeah, I'm going to donate $20 to help provide 200 meals, right? Now, who is not going to say for 20 bucks, I'm going to feed 200
Yeah.
people?
Right.
So it's that kind of thing. And even the outside, the outside envelope is all geared to that. That's all copy, you guys,
Okay.
write all of it. Sorry.
No, it's good. I was trying to read it.
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
says
mean, really
one
take a look.
dollar helps provide at least 10 meals. That's it. Urgent holiday meals voucher enclosed.
Nice.
That's, yeah.
Right. So get on the lists. Get on the lists. Donate, sign up online to get newsletters and emails from organizations that you care about. Wanda Faith was asking me, how can I write in the Christian world? Well, get on the list. Look for the retreats. Look for the
Yeah.
hospitals that are Christian based. Look for books and programs online. And basically, we have inside AWAI, we have a free hour-long thing on how to choose a niche. And it shows you how to research online and find the trade associations, find the organizations you want to write for. It goes through it step by step. And I don't know that world very much, so I can't answer you, Wanda, but that session will. So please walk through that session to see what you can do as far as really fun and interesting legwork for yourself through Google searches to find potential clients.
And
Yeah,
don't forget marketing agencies, right? Because there are marketing
right.
agencies that are focused on
Yes.
Christian charities, Catholic charities,
Yep.
all sorts of things. So don't forget to look for marketing agencies because there are lots of them that are focused in that space.
Right. So get all that knowledge soaking in, and start promoting yourself. And the thing is, there is a way to attract clients to you. You don't have to keep knocking on the door every day. But one of the things that I bring up every time, you guys might be sick of me talking about this, but start with someone you know. Is there a local charity like my Habitat for Humanity organization locally to me? I go there, I go to their restore. I've practically bought everything they put in the restore and I donate to their local efforts. I've gotten to know them. So why not say to a person you know in your town running a nonprofit and say, I have some ideas for your fundraising efforts and I'd love to try something with you. Would you be open to that? Do you think they'd say no if you have some ideas that might bring them donations? No, they will say, oh my gosh, that's cool. Let me hear more. Right. So
Mhm.
I would say every week, one of the AWI members or more will tell me, how'd you get your first client? Oh, it was my brother, or it was someone I do business with, or it was someone I know down the street. Start with people you know. I bet everyone
Mhm.
here knows somebody involved with a nonprofit of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going
And
to be
whether you know
pushy,
them or
Pam.
not, yeah, I mean, I was talking to a woman who's the director of a regional food bank. And she said, I said, how do you find writers? Well, they do some of their writing in-house. She said some of it is people who volunteered for us who then come up, they know our mission, and then they contact me and say, hey, I think I could do this a little better for you. Would you be willing to pay me for this? And she's hired them to write copy for her. So there's no, it's the relationships. And, this is kind of what Pam was getting to is either you have the relationships or you build the relationships, but the relationships are where you're going to find a huge amount of success in getting clients.
Yep. Sorry, answering the question here.
No
So
worries.
LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a great thing too, because business people, including marketers for nonprofits, are on LinkedIn looking for writers. Trust me, they are. And I know of many writers in the AWII pool who have positioned themselves as writers in different nonprofits, and they're found. Like people are searching in Google. Okay, I run ASPCA Pro. I actually got approached once because I have pet copywriter or veterinary copywriter in my world on LinkedIn, and I've had ASPCO, sorry, ASPCA Pro reach out to me for some help with their website. That's what you do. You tell people that's who you write for.
Yeah.
Um, add the word nonprofit to your headline. We've got a couple of examples here that Lisa found. Tell me about these folks, if you could, Lisa.
So the top one I don't know, that's why I grayed her name
Oh,
out, but I just
okay.
loved her I loved her what do you call it, banner image,
Yeah.
spread your message to the world, copywriting to motivate your customers. And then she talks about the fact that she writes for nonprofits. Now,
Mhm.
Katie is part of AWAI's community below,
Yes.
and she also writes for nonprofits. So I
Mhm.
asked her if I could use that. You just slip that word in somewhere to your target market or something like
Yep.
that, or it can be part of your profile. I mean, for me, one of the biggest nonprofit clients I've ever had found me because of the work I did with PTA. Because PTA is all through my LinkedIn profile because of all of the volunteering I did with them. And they reached out and they said, hey, we see that you're heavily involved in the education space and you've got experience X, Y, and Z. Would you be willing to come and write for us? And it was a perfect fit.
Okay.
So yeah.
And we're going to get to questions in a minute, you guys, but I wanted to show you the AWI resources that you have. We've mentioned a lot of them. They're inside AWAI, just like this session we're doing right now that's free. We have, oh gosh, 60 or more now free presentations we've done like this, and many of them are on getting clients or finding, choosing a niche, which this would fall under. You can, if you want to write for the climate sustainability practices or climate issues and stuff, you can walk through that inside AWAI to find organizations and companies focused on that and nonprofits. We also have our free article base. If you just go to awai.com and on a drop down, it says resources, there's an article archive, but that's the direct link there too. Just type nonprofit in the search bar and you're going to find a whole bunch of stuff that we have. Some of it's articles, some of it involves programs. So, look through there because there's a lot of wealth of sort of training light information that you could learn a lot just from the free stuff we have on our website. But I have some big news for you right now. Dun, da, da, da. Lisa is launching something we've never done before, Writing for Good. It is a new training and it's going to cover your profitable path supporting nonprofits and causes. That is the link there. But if you're a COS member, please go to your COS member page. You will find a link at the very bottom of all the tabs on your main member page that say something about a niche. So look for that. But basically, Lisa, why don't you tell everybody what it's all about?
Yeah, I'm so excited. So we're gonna do in this Writing for Good class, we're gonna have a 2-hour workshop in December. And then starting in January, we're gonna meet a couple times a week for the next 4 weeks, essentially, a little bit longer because we've got Martin Luther King Jr. Day in there. And we are going to talk about exactly how you write all of the pieces that are needed in nonprofit copywriting. You'll get a whole library of templates that you can use. We're going to talk about what the fundamentals of copywriting is in this niche. We're going to do a whole ton of writing. You're going to write almost every single class something. Some of it will be in-class stuff. Some of it will be homework. You'll get professional feedback on that homework. You're going to get a certificate of completion that you can use to promote yourself. And actually, one of the bonuses is we're putting together an entire self-promotional package for you. We'll give you a PowerPoint presentation you can use to go meet with the larger clients and show them what all you can do. You're going to get a whole ton of really cool bonuses and stuff. And I'm working on trying to get you some marketers that we can talk to hear from exactly from the horse's mouth around getting clients, around what they look for hiring. So I'm really excited about it. I'm really, really excited about this class.
Did you mention the cash prizes?
And the cash prizes. Holy cow, I forgot about the cash prizes. So top submissions are going to get $500 for being the top submission in each one of the samples. So you'll have several opportunities to win $500 back and get a great portfolio sample.
Yep. Now we had a question, is this similar to our certification programs where you become certified? It's different because
It's different. Yeah.
yeah, those programs are on one specific project type. Like we just wrapped up today our white paper certification program. That is a very specific project type. This,
Yeah.
however, is a whole bunch of different projects that are needed in this world of nonprofit writing. So you're going to go through the basics and deeper on what drives people to donate or join or support. Like writing to advertisers and sponsors is just as important as writing to end users or donors. Donors. It's almost like they need everything. So,
Yeah, there's a whole way of writing. So I will share with you, I talked to somebody who hires copywriters in the nonprofit space, and what she told me was for every 10 applicants she gets, she might get one person who really understands how to
right.
write in that space.
Yep.
And so that's what this class is about. This class is about if you have an interest in writing in that industry, we're going to teach you what you need to know to get past that gatekeeper and get a yes from those clients, right? Because you will know what it takes to write copy and move people to open their wallets for this.
Now, yep. And so what we're going to do is this. We're going to have a kickoff session, a 2-hour kickoff session on December 15th. So you need to sign up before then. And that's going to dig deep into the opportunity and how to really get started to your brain around the whole potential here. Amazing. And then there is, tell us, Lisa, more about that actual live event that's 2 hours coming up.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to go even deeper there than we did today, around exactly what it means, each one of these pillars, like what's in them, what kind of copy is in them, how you write them.
Right.
We're going to talk in a lot more depth on how to put together one specific kind of writing that these nonprofits need, and that is social media. And in fact, you will leave that workshop with a homework assignment, which you will have to do within, I think, like 2.5 weeks of that workshop. You'll have about 2.5 weeks to do it. And then you're going to also be eligible to win a cash prize in the very first class, like the very first class in January. And that's just from one 2-hour workshop. You will have the skill set to go write a Facebook ad for your favorite charity or whatever it is that you want to write. We'll give you an example if you want, but you can pick your own favorite charity. This is really for you. This is because causes and charities and they're so personal, like people have such passion around specific areas. What I try to do with this class is almost all of your assignments, you will be able to pick something you want, although we'll give you something to do if you can't pick something. But
Right.
if you love animals, you don't really want to be writing for education scholarships, right? But if you're really into, equity or scholarships, then maybe you want to write for that and not for, animals or cancer research or whatever. So I'm really excited about what we've done here.
Yes. All right. Now, we have questions. And sorry, I was just answering a couple. But Lisa, some of them I don't know how to answer. So I'm hoping you
Yeah.
can. Anne is asking, I applied for a few grant writing positions that require a bachelor or even a master's degree. Why is that so critical, especially if someone is passionate about the nonprofit and has the ability to write well?
Yeah. So just like any job application, right? They will say what their requirements are. And what I always recommend that people do is they look at what are they really looking for. What they're really looking for is somebody who knows how to write a grant that is going to get them the funding they need, especially because nonprofits are often heavily, probably too heavily, reliant on grants in order to fund their operations. So they may put that in there because they believe that somebody at that level is the only type of person who's going to understand how to write their grant. But if you can prove to them that you understand how to write the grant and you don't have that, it won't matter, because at the end of the day, what they want is the grant that's effectively written.
Perfect. Okay, now where do churches fall in the pillars? And I don't want to make any assumptions here. I was trying to think of an answer all along, but
Yeah, I mean, they are generally, I believe, they are a special type of 501c organization. So I would lump them under charities, but they're actually probably a fourth pillar, if you will, because they have special status, at least in the US. I don't know outside the US what their status is. But I would treat them like you would treat like in terms of writing copy for them. I would write copy for them the same way you would write it for the associations or charities or things like that. People who donate to churches donate for the same kinds of reasons, right? Personal connections, that kind of thing.
okay, thank you.
But Kristen, it's a good point. They are sort of a separate designation.
Yeah. There was an acronym for a safety group that we showed earlier. Do you know it offhand, Lisa? Because I can't remember.
ASTM.
ASTM. Okay. T is in Tom.
Yeah.
Anna, lots of questions. Awesome. Has the slope, so we showed those two graphics with the slope going up quite dramatically on the number of nonprofits.
The slope has actually gone up more.
Wow.
It's actually gotten higher. We just I couldn't find a source with that particular type of information. I couldn't find it all the way out to this year. But we do know that this year, I think it's, what is it, 600 trillion now or something? I don't know. It's a lot more, right? So the slope has continued to go up.
Okay. Let's see. Do writers for nonprofits always get paid a flat rate, or can they earn commissions? It all depends. I know that fundraising is an area that does pay royalties based on the number of donations you bring in. In the trade association world where I work, I don't believe they pay commissions or royalties at all. But I haven't done.
That's typically B2B, and B2B typically doesn't pay royalties or commissions. So I can tell you, I have been offered, although I didn't want the rest of the package, so I didn't take the offer. I have been offered a percent of retention, like when you get people to in the retention copy, when you get people to re-sign on, I've been offered a percent of that before, like royalties. I didn't like the rest of the offer, so I did not take it, but I know it's available. And I believe that you can also get some grant contracts where you can get a percentage of the grant if you're able to bring the grant money to them as well.
Yep. Okay. Okay, scores. Sharon's asking about scores, and I have no idea, but environmental social governance scores are available for corporations. So too for nonprofits, non-governmental organizations. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if those kind of scores are available for nonprofits. I do know that there is, at least for charities, there's Charity Navigator, which you can go look at and look at the scores for Charity Navigator to tell you. So that's like sort of, I had been donating to Wounded Warrior, and their score is actually not very high, but Wounded Warrior Families score is higher. So I switched my donations to Wounded Warrior Families. So there are some things, and there are other organizations that will rate sort of the charity in terms of how much of the money. That's what we were talking about with the transparency. With nonprofits and charities, it's more about the reports that they produce and the transparency. And then there are organizations that will look at those reports and sort of rank them in terms of effectiveness of the nonprofit. So that you can find.
Okay, beautiful. Kirsten is asking, will one of the writing samples be writing for grant applications?
It will not be. So we do not have, no, we do not, because grant applications are so very specific. So
Yeah.
we will have an entire class dedicated to writing for grants. You will learn how to write for grants, but every single grant is really very, very specific to the person who designed the grant. So what we're going to teach you is how to read a grant and understand what people really want in terms of how to fill it out and everything. So it's a little bit different than the rest of the copy. So no, you won't have a grant sample, but that's actually not a difficult thing to get for yourself, because if you want to do something pro bono, right, and you've got an organization or connection that wants to apply for a grant, and they don't have the resources to do that, once you take the class, offer to do that. You will have the sample that you can use, and you potentially are going to get them some money. So grants are a little bit tough to do a sample for.
And Cynthia's saying, I've been writing grants for decades, and grants will not pay the grant writer. Maybe the org will, but that's not standard practice. And somebody else just disappeared, posted an awesome link, Association of Fundraising Professionals, good resource to check out on taking percentages of grants as payment. So thank you for that, Roberta. AFP, Association of Fundraising Professionals. Check it out, find out what that's all about. We do have a separate AWAI grant writing program that goes way in depth, but and that's certainly an option, but we're trying to cover here the full picture of what nonprofits need. Yes, they need grant writers, but they also need website writers, email writers, mail writers, video writers, everything you can think of. Grant is one piece of that. So this is about the breadth.
And one of the things to keep in mind is that you don't have to write only for nonprofits. So for example, like when Pam was writing in the vet world, she was writing for both for-profit and nonprofit companies. And she used all of that made her feel good because she was writing in the world that she wanted to write in. I write in the education space in a combination of for-profit and nonprofit education companies. And that's because that's what I like to do. You can write only for nonprofits, or you can add nonprofits to your sort of your niche to round it out and feel really good about the stuff that you're able to do in the space that you care about.
Judy's asking, how does the new Writing for Good course differ from copywriting for nonprofits? Again, we're talking about the whole breadth. I think copywriting for nonprofits is an older program. It's all about fundraising. We're going to be updating that too, but it will be very focused on fundraising, where this, again, once you have this scope of understanding, you can offer endless support and writing services to organizations. So it's not just one finite thing. And that's what we keep trying to show you, is you're going to be more of a consultant. And then you help the organization decide, oh, in this case, then we want to do some mail, and I can write that. This would be a great video. I can write that. Oh, this would be, that this is giving you that breadth. So you're a true consultant to any nonprofit you want to help. You're not really just one thing. So I hope that helps.
And Cindy's asking, can nonprofits be your niche? They can be, for sure. There's no question. And then Cynthia's saying she's never received a percentage for a grant. She gets a standard rate. So, and I think that is the most common thing, is you just get paid for the work that you do for the grant. But I personally know people who have been paid a percent of the grant money. So I think, just like with any situation, when you are talking to a client, what works for you and them as your arrangement is often a result of what you are willing to do creatively with the client to get you what you need and to get them what they need, right? And I think that goes across the board, whether we're talking about grants or anything else, for profit or nonprofit. It's okay to have a conversation with your client to say, you want to offer this lower rate, which I can deal with, but I also want this thing.
Mhm.
right? Maybe it's a percent, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a promise of future work. Maybe it's whatever. You don't have to just take what they tell you and go away. If you've proven your worth, you will be able to talk to them about what works for both of you.
Yeah, and some may do royalties as standard practice, and some may never do royalties. They're not set up to measure things like that, to give you a percentage. They may not be set up to measure that.
Yeah.
So just ask them. Do you typically pay royalties or percentages on the donations that come in as a result of your mailings? And they may go, "Oh no, we don't have any way to do that." So that's the end of that conversation. Or they may say, "Oh yes, that's standard
Yeah.
practice here. We'll make sure you get whatever percent they usually do."
Yeah.
So it's definitely a client by client conversation. Oh my God.
And client by client, and your own initiative, right?
Yeah.
Your creativity makes a big difference.
Okay. Susan's asking how to email me, pfoster@awai.com. And I think that's a wrap. That's a
Yay!
wrap for this month's Inside AWI. Thank you so much, Lisa, for enlightening us on this very big opportunity that I just love to talk about because it's huge, and we both have worked in those realms, and
Yeah,
it really is. It's a real deal. So
it's a
that's why
real
I
deal,
want to.
and it's so fun, right? So
Oh, it
much more
is.
rewarding. So yeah, absolutely.
Yep, your clients win, you win, everybody wins. It's a beautiful thing. So I hope you'll
Yeah.
check it out. There's the link, awai.com, not profits, nonprofits. At least check it out and see if it's something you want to dive into. Make sure you do before December 15th, because that's the kickoff. And then, yeah, Lisa will be your guide. I'll be chiming in every now and then, but you're in great hands with Lisa. So I hope you do check it out. Thank you for being here today, and we will see you again in our next month's Inside AWAI session. Thanks for Jake and everybody on the back end too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.